Where's my?
Do we have everyone, or are we waiting on some people?
I don't see.
Hey, Frank, I like the article on the Portland Loos.
It's a pretty clever strategy of having a complete unit that you just slide off the truck and it's ready to go.
Well, we looked at ones in Rio Doso that were made out of other material, but those look kind of cool. And then you can put the vents in it and stuff, so you can tell if somebody's in the bathroom. You just can't see them in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so people can't hide, that type of thing. I sent for some info. I still haven't received anything, but.
Have they provided any pricing information, or yet?
No, I put my name down. I said, I want to get with you and discuss it. Haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Well, I'll follow up with it too, or try to do a little bit more research, but they look pretty straightforward in terms of the material design. So
Yeah.
They may not be too far out of sight.
Yeah.
All right. It's currently 2 p.m. Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Yes.
How do we see our own picture?
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call?
Krutik Bhakta,
Present.
Ellen Aidfield, Gabriel Garcia,
Present.
Georgina Ortega Onhand, and Shauna Sandoval.
Here.
All right. Moving on to approval of the agenda. If all is okay with the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Come here.
Motion to approve.
All right. Can I get a second? Gabriel, it's just you and Shauna, so a second would probably be coming from you.
All right, second it. Sorry.
All right. Roll call.
Gabriel Garcia
Here, yeah, yes.
and Shauna Sandoval.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right. Moving on to public input. Do we have any public input for this meeting?
I was not submitted any public input.
All right. Moving on to approval of minutes. If there's not any discussion on minutes, hopefully everyone got the chance to review. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 4/13/2021.
Motion to approve.
Or gotta stay here.
I second it.
Gotta stay here.
Okay, roll call.
Shauna Sandoval
Yes.
and Gabriel Garcia.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to business items. Number 1 on the list is request for approval. Friday's al fresco for $9,145.
I thought these were already done.
Okay, hold on.
That's Chuck.
Yes, the request is to continue with the advertising to market the Fridays al fresco.
So they're asking an increase from the 5,000 already awarded?
Yes,
Okay. During the council meeting, you had connected this to an event in July. We were doing a mini fiestas. Is that
they're
correct?
all part of Friday Nights al Fresco. It's all one continuous series.
Okay, so I read the packet again for this one. Where in the packet is it showing for fiestas?
It doesn't show for fiestas. It's all inclusive with Friday Nights al Fresco.
Right. So that's where the confusion was before. There was no mention of a part of that or an event or so on. That connection wasn't made for the last lodger's tax, and I wanted to specifically bring it up for this lodger's tax meeting. Again, it wasn't put in the packet, and it seems to be something that's important to council, but wasn't mentioned to lodger's tax. So, I mean, even for this, I mean, it would be a big deal for this packet if it's something along those lines, and it's something that's important to council and why it wouldn't be in the packet. So specifically for this event in July for mini fiestas, what's the plans for that? Is that just another weekend, or what's the details on that so we know?
There's a total of 40 concerts starting May 7th and continuing all the way through October 8th. Every Friday night, with the exception of July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, there'll be a series of concerts, July 2nd, July 3rd, and July 4th.
Right. So when on those events, are they listed in his packet?
I don't know what was submitted in your packet. I didn't get a copy of that packet.
Okay. So as part of the advertising that for the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and 4th, that's why the Lodgers Tax Board wasn't advised as well, Chuck. When you brought it up under council, was presented that why would we not recommend something like this, but the event wasn't mentioned at all. So that's why I wanted to bring it up now to make sure we address it, so it doesn't appear as if we're not. So part of this advertising is covering those 4 days.
It would be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, correct?
Okay. All right. So do you know if, I mean, we had asked before, I know in the packet, in the meeting for the last time around, we had asked if there was going to be, if he could provide any other avenues of advertising that had a broader scope since we were trying to grow it. Do you know if that's the case, if there's other areas that we can advertise, especially, considering fiestas, or is it still currently the same places, and is it all radio basically that's listed in his packet?
Not being privy to your packet, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what you're looking at. I know that Steve Ledger is advertising with various stations. He's on the line now, so you might want to, I'll defer to him. I'm not sure what stations he's exactly advertising in.
Okay. So on the packet, he has K-Fun, KNMX, KBAC, KRTC. So KBAC is in Santa Fe, KRTC is in Trinidad. So those are the radio places we had. And I mean, when we were okay with that, when we approved the 5,000, I'm just wondering if he came up with any other, and we want to make sure that if he didn't leave it out of the packet or so on, if he's come up with any other advertising areas, digital or whatnot.
I know that Radio Suave was another station that was going to be included in that. I'm not sure the exact call letters. It's out of Santa Fe. And then those are the ones that I'm aware of. But it's the 9,000 that they're additional that they're asking for. It's in addition to the 5,000.
To the 5,000, right. Okay. All right. Is he on the line, or would you be able to, I guess specifically as far as the radio stations, if we could figure out a way, I know, I mean, looking through the packet, he was having trouble tracking the event. But I think if this event is growing, we need to figure out a way. It's kind of harder with radio stations, but I'm wondering if you can communicate with radio stations and have them say something pertaining to maybe if they call into the station could use it as advertisement or as a promotion, and they can call in and the station can count how many call-ins they had. Or as far as printouts or whatever, if they mentioned, hey, I heard this on the radio, and bring it to a hotel, the hotels can track it. Some way of tracking this, and this is going to only help the event itself. So I think we can, if we come up with ways to track it, we can help him provide the information, on his own event and how it's growing, so that we know that, hey, when we're trying to figure out funding for future years, that this is going to the right place, or we're doing the right things here, or we need to move into digital or Facebook and so on. But if it's going to be all radio, I wanted to see if he can figure out with these radio stations, how do we track? We're always going to get general listenership and so on, but we don't know how it's tracked to actual people arriving in Las Vegas or staying in Las Vegas or eating Las Vegas. So if we can work with the stations to track that in some way, I think they'll be good for this event.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I believe that he's trying to share your screen to show a presentation. Steve, are you there? Well, I see that he's put something up, but I'm not sure what he's doing. Steve? I don't know, Mr. Chairman. I just know that the remainder of that money was needed for advertising. Exactly, and I know that he was looking at radio. That was all part of through Las Vegas First. That money was being asked for.
Right. Okay. I mean, hopefully they've just kind of listened to this. I mean, it's only going to help the event if we can figure. That's fine. If it's all radio and it doesn't have different spread, it's harder to. And we certainly, I mean, that should be part of the advertising mix, no matter what. I was just surprised that it was the only advertising, even with increased fundings. But if that's the case, that's fine. We just need to work with the radio stations as to how do we track this. And this might even help it's not just ad buys. Radio stations can make this a promotional thing.
Right,
So track the action on this event. It helps for future years again, to say, hey, this was the right way, this is the right place, or not. We say, hey, we didn't get anything from Raton or Trinidad, sorry, and we would concentrate on other areas and so on.
Right.
So if there's any other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I say we go forward.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
All right. And then I'll entertain a second.
Hey, guys, I wanted to say something.
Okay, Steve, there's a motion on the floor, but go ahead and go ahead and
What is the motion? I was having trouble with my phone.
we have a motion. We're in the middle of a motion to approve and waiting for a second. But if you have any discussion, if you just connected, just go ahead.
Okay, well, I wanted to just say that we've devised a way to track the attendees at the park by having a free raffle ticket. And then those people that are identified as from out of town, we're going to give them a short, quick survey. How did you hear of the concert? Is it something that would bring you back to Vegas? Is it something that you would go home and tell your friends and family about what a good time it was to have a concert here in the park? So a survey like that would also help us to track where they heard it and where they're from. Because this last concert we had 270 people, and that was mostly all local because we haven't started the radio ads yet because we're kind of waiting on the rest of the funding. Okay, so this will be a good way to find out what the radio is going to do for the event by tracking the attendees. You know, the ones that actually show up. You know, and by having everybody fill out a free raffle for some gifts that have been donated to the concert, we can go through them and we'll identify the people from out of town and have them go forward with a little more in-depth survey of 4 questions that would give us a more clear picture of how they heard about the event and where they're from.
I did see that in the packet on the clicker. I think that's a good idea. On the clicker there for the people that are there. Hopefully they fill it out. Do you know where they're going to give that to, or are there different places that or it's at the event? You're going to have like a Dropbox or something?
Yeah. A table. We have a table that's our Las Vegas First headquarters,
Okay.
and people go there. And I'll go out to the islands. We send a counter, and that's how we came up with the 250 people around 7 o'clock, 270. And then I've gone out just to meet the crowd and tell them that there's a free raffle, just to get some information. And you know when people are from out of town usually, but there was mostly locals because we hadn't started our radio ad campaign. So it's going to be really interesting to see what a radio program would do. And as far as social media, most of these bands have Facebooks. Businesses have Facebook. It's going to be out on social media. All over the place, just for that reason alone. But the radio ads are targeting not only different areas, but different demographics of people that listen to different kinds of music, people that listen to talk shows. So, and it's a very broad area, so it's going to be very interesting to see what impact that does on the attendance and the mix of the concerts.
Okay.
Steve and Chuck, in the future, there's really not enough time to get it started for the beginning, but linking to the Fridays Al Fresco music venue on the Connect Las Vegas mobile app would be one way you could add another point of access and information content because it logs in what town people are from, and I'd have to think about how to set it up, but it's certainly something that could be added to that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely open for it. Well, we're open for suggestions, on how to get this better. And, it's just like an experiment. We're running an experiment. So I know the purpose of an experiment is to get data. So we're trying to find ways to get more precise data so we can see how things are working.
Well, the raffle is a good carrot and incentive to provide us with information. I mean, not without not tainting it, but I mean, the raffle is a good idea for them to fill out the piece of paper in the first place. But it would be if it's, the connection with the app would be another way to connect to that same data and saying, hey, I'm going to fill out this, make sure to fill out this survey, or if I can get connected to that link to the survey from the app, I'm with this raffle. Yeah. And if you need, are you going to be approaching businesses to add to this this raffle?
Yeah, I am. Right now, it's JC's Pizza has donated $20 gift certificate for the duration of the show. And you know, this is like analog, you know, going actually getting people to write stuff down. And then the other one through the internet is a digital type of system. So I think using both of them is definitely the way to go.
Okay. Yeah, I know the hotels can help out in some way too. So we can see what we can do there.
Okay. Sorry about being late. I'm having trouble with my phone.
Okay. All right. If there's not any other discussion, there's a motion on the floor.
So it was, they were already granted 5,000. Now they're asking for an additional 10,000, 9,000.
No,
So-
what they're asking for is we're already approved. They're asking for 9,000 and change. Let me see. They were already approved for 5,000. So the request is for an additional 4,000 and change. I believe. What was the total on the agenda? Unexpected approved for 5,000.
Chuck, is that correct?
I don't think so. I didn't see the agenda, so I don't know what the packet says.
So on the agenda it says 9,145. But his packet, the second packet that we received, it's already counting the 5. So that's why I'm assuming that.
So it's supposed to be an additional 9,000 on top of the 5.
Because the original thing was around 13, close to 14,000.
Almost 14.
What we asked for, so the 9,000 would cover what the original request was. So it was 9,000 that we were asking in addition to.
In addition to 5.
Yeah. That was what was on the original request, and that was based on the quotes from the 4 radio stations. And some print ads, some print material.
Yeah, I mean, I
Money
don't know
was
if
being
advertising
allowed-
on the radio in Trinidad is going to be fruitful for anyone. Just saying.
Pardon? Could you repeat?
I just don't know how fruitful the radio advertisements out in northern New Mexico are going to be for bringing people to this event. I'm not that convinced about it.
Well, I know the area, and I know people drive over the hill and go to Raton a lot. And you know, I think that there's some people that will definitely make the trip down. I mean, there was people that are trying to get down here and rent a room this weekend that I know of that couldn't rent a room because it was all rented to the movie. So this last weekend with no radio ads, there was people that were calling me that you know how to find a room, but they couldn't find one, so they didn't come.
So on the packet as it stands, I'm looking at the breakout that you have. Okay, and so you've listed all the radio stations there, and you listed the cost of each one, and then you've put down the money that has been allotted. So this is what I'm seeing. So 5,000. So on the bottom, the total cost of the event, you've put down 9,145. So you did include the 5,000. So that's why I'm reading it as is. So that's why I was reading it as you're requesting the additional funding from the 5,000 we already awarded to get to 9,145. That's how your packet is presenting it.
Well,
It's supposed to be the 9,000, the 5,000 minus it's supposed to be the 5,000 already allotted, and an additional 9,000 is what we're asking for to make it productive.
Okay, but it's not what's in the application. So I guess the board will have to decide that. Okay, if I don't have a second, I'll ask again for a second. If not, this portion dies.
Mr. Chairman, who made the motion?
So the first motion was Gabriel to approve, but we need to clarify because it's presented in the packet, so we didn't clarify the amount. So Gabriel on your motion, are you understanding the amount that we're approving?
Sorry, so it's, what was the total cost again? The 9,000?
Yeah, so in the packet, the total cost is mentioned as 9,145 in the packet that was emailed to all of us. So in that packet, as part of the cost, the 5,000 was included in his packet. So by that, we're thinking that we're increasing the 5,000 already awarded to 9,145. But now what they're saying outside of the packet is, no, it's not, it's the 9,145 plus the 5,000 already awarded.
Oh, so we're up
But
to,
it doesn't have the breakdown of the additional monies used in the packet. And that's problematic because he hasn't shown how he's going to use.
Mr. Chair, can I speak up? I just looked at it, and maybe you can't see it on your copy, but what they do is they listed all the advertising they're going to do, and at the bottom it says minus 5,000 already appropriated, leaving a balance of 9,100 and whatever it is. It does show that on the application.
Okay, so I'm looking at page 11, and on the bottom of that page, for what I got, it says 9,145.
I was just under the understanding that if we were going to increase the budget for an event over $5,000, it was going to be like the biker rally or the fiestas or something that was going to bring thousands of people to this town. Like, I don't really see this as an appropriate application of expanding that out for radio advertising in, you know, in these places like where there's no proof of any return.
Well, if you remember, Board Member Sandoval, when the events came before you in, I think, way back in March, the ones that were allotted to go above the amount were fiestas, biker rally, salute to troops. Because we had to make adjustments to fiestas, this is in lieu of the fiestas, so it would be falling into that category. And they were approved at that time by the board for those that I mentioned.
So we can look, so we have the limits that we set, but we can, of course, say, hey, we'll have council decide. But the problem is, and council's gonna have to ask this question too, for what's presented, we don't know, okay? I don't see if, Bill, you can tell me which page in the packet, the additional monies, okay, right? That amount, what's it being spent on? Where's all the bonds for the radio is totaling to the 9,145 total. Okay. Now if it's addition to that 5,000, what's that 5,000 originally being spent on? I don't see any more ad buys. I don't see increased ad buys. We've just increased the amount. You guys have done it verbally. I don't see it on this packet.
So on page 11, they list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories of advertising, which adds up to the 13. I assume I haven't added it all up, but it looks pretty close to the 13,000. Minus the 5 leaves the 9, or 14,000, whatever. Minus the 5 leaves the 9. I haven't added it up on the calculator. I'm hoping their math is correct. So that 5,000 will be spread out amongst those categories.
And also, we're talking an event that's spanning 5 months. You know, every
Right.
Friday, 24 concerts, and plus the second, third, and fourth. So it's
It's a total of 40 concerts.
And by the time it gets the middle of summer and things are more restrictions are lifted, we're going to have a really good influx of people from out of town coming to this. People are just dying to get out, dying to visit different places. And
I agree, Steve. I just don't know if they're going to hear about it on the radio. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what we mentioned the last time too. We were hoping that for the second time around, you'd approach us with different avenues. But that That's fine. That's the decision. So I'll do one more time. There's a motion on the floor. If there's a second.
I still say yes, so if anyone wants to second it or not, that's where I stand.
Second.
All right. It looks like this item dies. We don't have a second. So we're going to move on to the next event. What we can say is we could recommend this to council. I'm sure it's going to come up. And if there's a motion to recommend it to council to have them decide, we can do that in lieu of making a decision here, or we could just take this decision as no and move on.
It's 1/2
Okay. So we're moving on to request for approval of Las Vegas CCHP NM Cruise and Tour 4,500.
Okay, this is a request. In the past, CCHP's big fundraiser has been Places with a Past. It's been the tour of individual homes and buildings. And it has attracted between 250 to actually 450 people. This year, we're not doing in-home tours, but the thought was to capitalize on the Santa Fe Trail bicentennial. This is the 200th year anniversary of the Santa Fe Trail. And in talking with Chuck, one of the thoughts was we could take this Santa Fe Trail anniversary and combine it with two of the events that the city's planning, the New Mexico Cruise and the Solar Challenge. Those are weekends in August. And the thought is to be prepared with tours that could be docent-led. They can be self-guided tours, bike tours, or car tours, motorcycle tours. We would map out the tours, not only in Las Vegas, but with signs outside, do some narratives about the history. Las Vegas was a big part of the Santa Fe Historic Trail. And by making it a bigger event, I've been on the phone with Michael Gonzalez, who's the owner operator of the New Mexico Cruise. That's a one-day event, and his request is to expand it to a weekend where he could capitalize on having the attendees and all of the participants of the New Mexico Cruise come and then spend the night, spend a couple nights. So they take advantage of the history of Las Vegas. They take advantage of the Santa Fe Trail. So the request is for $4,500 to develop materials that can be used to hand out at the registration tables for the New Mexico Cruise. We can also have tables there for the docent-led tours so we can get an idea of where people are coming from. Michael Gonzalez is a real promoter. He has 12 Facebook pages, 4 Instagram. He said he reaches thousands of people. Cars are a big deal, and this can be a history of the transportation through the last 200 years. So that's the request.
What about the banners?
That's the solar car.
Oh.
Any questions?
Hello?
Yeah. So where does it like start and end? Did you already say that?
Well, the Santa Fe Trail starts in Independence, Missouri, and it goes to Santa Fe. So that was
No. Like the tour, like the thing that's
I'm
going on.
sorry. The New Mexico Cruise date is August 13th, and it would be that weekend, August 13th through August 15th.
How many does the cruise typically attract?
The cruise typically attracts several hundred. Chuck, if you're on there and can add anything else to that, But it's a big event, and he's wanting to promote it via, he does post videos, ramp up videos, and people would be coming from all over and would spend the night giving us heads and beds.
I noticed you put it in under infrastructure versus an event.
No, that was just, I think you asked for past amounts of funding previously received, and we did say CCHP received.
No,
I'm sorry.
I've got two blanks for lodgers tax RFPs. That apparently that's the blank for the infrastructure. That's my mistake. That should be the
event form. Okay, which is pretty similar. So that needs to be worked on. Okay, so it was meant as an event. So on the breakdown, as far as the unit cost, it looks like develop marketing narratives and promotional site signage for tours, self-guided walking, decent.
Right.
In car route. So is that? I mean, that's why I was thinking maybe you would put it in as infrastructure. Are these signs for just the event, or will we be able to reuse them? Can we count this as infrastructure?
I'm looking at being able to reuse it and promote this in succeeding years, even though it may not be the biennial. The Santa Fe Trail is like a Route 66. People, even in the past, like to go on that trail and stop. CCHP is actually an official site where they can get passports stamped. So people, real history buffs, do come on the trail. Yes, I can see it being used over again.
Okay. Yeah, so that's why I'm finding the cross, because I see like developed like radio spots and so on, but I didn't see, and so as I was thinking this was all via infrastructure, because I don't see I see like development of radio spots, but I don't see any ad placements. So that's why I was confused between the two.
Okay. No, there would be, at CCHP, we had ads placed, and I have that file. So the plan is to also place ads where we've advertised before, but to do much more with social media as well.
Okay.
And the cruise has a heavy promotional.
Okay.
Yeah. The New Mexico Cruise Organization, as Jan mentioned, he's a very savvy promoter using a lot of digital media. And the other unique thing is that the cruise organizes events throughout the state, and they're all done kind of pro bono in terms of the work that he does to promote, and they oftentimes have a fundraiser or donations associated with the car cruise, and they typically donate that to some organization or some a nonprofit or other groups within the town. So they're a charitable organization that drives them, and they use the car cruise as something to attract an audience. He's a rather interesting guy.
Okay. So
will there be like venues or anything? Are they gonna close down Bridge Street and the plaza once all the cars come in? Like, I'm just trying to picture like the route and like the whole event and what it's gonna look like.
Well, Chuck can also weigh in, but to my understanding, the cars are going to be on Railroad Street. That's where they're not going to put them on Bridge Street because they don't want to close that down. So they found that in the past, they've been here last year and they put the cars on Railroad Street. People like to come up to the cars, look at them, talk to people. And this is a way to get not only the people who are participating, but who they attract to spend the night and take advantage of Las Vegas's history.
Okay.
far as any tracking is concerned, you're doing that over social media. Is there any other tracking that's for this event?
Well, we'll be tracking on registration. When they register, we'll have a table for CCHP for tours as well. And with our docent-led tours, we'd hope to raise some money. There will be a charge for that, but there'll be, I envision pamphlets for taking the cars and going to Pecos, Fort Union. So there'll be ways that these cars and their owners can take side trips, as well as people who would ordinarily be attracted to Las Vegas for Places with the Past. This is a new event for us.
Okay, and is there, when they register, do you think there could be a line item to say, hey, are they staying in town or not? Or whether the source of where they're coming from?
Yes, we will certainly do that, where they're from and if they're planning to spend the night.
Right, if they heard of any of the advertising for the event, whether they're staying and so on.
Right. When they register, we'll have a table for them right here on Railroad. We'll have a table for Jan and for other nonprofits, and as they register, they can sign up for the tours, and they're given a sticker as they register for the event anyway. So then we're going to be partnering up with Alan Appeld and doing some events here at the Casaneda along with Jan's event. So it ties in perfectly because these guys, they're car fanatics, so they love to do the day treks and go on these little excursions. So what she's planning ties directly in with the whole purpose of the cruise.
Okay.
And their whole mission for the cruise is to bring GRT to communities. So the whole point for them coming is to go to the restaurants, stay at hotels. They take in a movie at the Fort Union Drive, and then they'll drive to Mora, or they'll drive to different locations. So that's the whole point of their cruise. It's not car specific. So, yeah.
Okay. And so I'm guessing there'll be, on this packet, I don't see, I see the development of the signage, and I see development of radio spots, but I don't see any actual ad buys. And so if we're looking at this as an event and we're helping with promotion and marketing, that's what we're typically approve under event. So that's why I was wondering if this is infrastructure, but it's turns into a slippery slope if it's just 1 year. But that's where I'm trying to decide. Has that not been decided yet on where these radio spots are actually going?
That list of where you were.
Yeah. Well, but based on Places with the Past, we'll be putting in an ad in True West, the Route magazine, historical magazines. We're going to be looking for placements to be able to attract our audience, as well as connecting with Michael Gonzalez, places that he feels would be good advertising. So we'll be checking in with him.
Right. And so, that's typically so that's what I was assuming, is that you would put down those, that magazine and so on, and Lodgers Tax helps with that ad buy, with that promotion, versus the actual creation of these items. So even for the prior one, we mentioned the same thing to Fridays Al Fresco. So he listed out all the places that he was going to place ads with, and that's the cost to place the ads. And that's what I saw on the breakdown. The actual developing and paying for that, we'd have to decide whether that's under the purview of Lodgers Tax of doing that.
Okay, so you'd like a supplement that just a detail of the ad placements.
Well, if it's not requested here, I'm assuming you're gonna have to get that money somewhere. So it should be in the reverse, that the pro bono work would be this creation, and
right.
Lodgers Tax would help with the placement. And that's a much clearer situation. But here we're helping with the actual development portion of it. And so it's the entity or Las Vegas First or so on takes that portion of it, and we would pay for advertisement, a billboard, radio, the placement.
Right.
And so that's why I'm having a tough time with this packet.
Switch it to infrastructure then, Krutek, and as Jan mentioned, the marketing material associated with the Santa Fe Trail and associated with New Mexico Cruise, which is an ongoing, it's been here in the past. There's an opportunity to bridge both of those concepts of the trail being about transportation, as well as the cruise attracting vehicles, transportation. This is something, and I think Chuck alluded to it, this is a concept or a program that ought to be going on every year. And
right. If we could tie it to every year, like infrastructure is, to me, is something that we could use. It's there, something that we could use every year. This is going to be continuing on every year. So the fire station, another museum piece, a clock. Those are the things that we had in mind. A park. Those are the things that we, tourism promoting park. But those are the things we had in mind when we wanted to set aside money for infrastructure. So yeah, we can consider it for this, but we really need to see it as infrastructure. I'm hoping it's not a slippery slope to circumvent another way. We're really looking for projects under infrastructure that would be part of this community for a while, and Lodgers Tax can and say, hey, this is was funded by him. This is provided to the community. But do you see after? So this is the bicentennial. You're thinking there's another. You can have other cruise events outside of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Gonzalez was feeling that he'd like this to be a spectacular weekend every summer, that it becomes an annual event that the group looks forward to every summer, and they tie in the history of the Santa Fe Trail, not just the bicentennial, but all what we're known for historically, our architecture, our spot on the trail. So he sees it as being an annual event, and we do too.
You know, what's not, Krutek, I think what's not clear is it seems like in the past there's been a call for infrastructure projects separate from events. And if we're able to put out infrastructure proposals to Lodgers Tax as well as events, I know from CCHP standpoint, we'd be shifting a lot more into infrastructure, because that's where the brochures over the last 25 years, those need to be updated. There's a lot of content, but there's typically not an avenue to get those out there. So if you're suggesting that we can present infrastructure proposals at any time for Lodgers Tax, boy, that opens up another door that we've not really been considering.
Well, we're trying to set a structure so that things like setting budgets and those things. I mean, we do need to set a calendar. COVID's sort of messed that up. We've been trying to establish it for a while. The only reason that there's dates in certain times is that we can adequately review everyone's proposal and advise accordingly to council. And so we've waived that. So we even for this application for events, we said, hey, let's go another round again with COVID. But in the future, I think it behooves us to have dates so everybody that has a presentation or something in mind knows exactly when things are going to happen versus us. I mean, there's plenty of people that probably didn't hear that we're wanting to review some more packets because we didn't have enough prior. But I mean, in my mind, both of those are there. Those are established. So if people wanted to, and I thought that's what you did here. But anyways, infrastructure in my mind is something that's going to be there for a while. So we did have. I mean, when we first started, we had some good projects. The museum the firehouse was a good project in my mind. So I thought we would have several of those, because those year after year, that's something that people are going to come visit too. Now, if we start tying it to events, we need to make sure whatever we're paying for, that's something that's happening, right? When we did for the river walk, the same that river walk, those signages, those things are going to be there for some time. So we really need to the definition of infrastructure to me is I know politically across the country there's different notions of what that means, but for tourism infrastructure, I was figuring it's more permanent structures. That's what we were looking for, from the Riverwalk to the museums to signage. That was the wayfinding signage. That's what we were thinking as infrastructure, something the community uses.
I'd like to make on this point just a recommendation that instead of this process being one of where the nonprofits are trying to come up with events and then bring them to lodgers tax, and then we learn about a lot of the details in these actual meetings. What about if we reverse the role to where you as a board lay out some requests or general concepts for infrastructure specifically and events specifically to guide the nonprofits, so that when we come to a meeting like this, we're meeting your needs rather than figuring them out as we talk and fumble in trying to get these proposals in. The second one recommendation is there should be a review process. We had these in the past proposals well in advance using the standardized format that everybody, I'm assuming, should be using. And it would alleviate a lot of these issues that we're spending time here, valuable time, if there were a review process. So if somebody looked at this proposal, saw it as infrastructure, read the description, and had a question about whether it's infrastructure event, all it would have taken was one comment back, and we could have corrected this and saved about 30 minutes of time.
Right. So we have voiced that to as lodgers, or I have, if somebody can look through them and do exactly what you said.
Actually, if you remember, those are made so that the board could score them. So the board is supposed to review those and score them before they are submitted. I mean, before the meeting, so that you guys are updated and you know what's happening prior to.
So they're all sent to us. As far as I know, they're not filtered before they get to us for quick questions. And so my opportunity to talk about it is now. So I got the packet and I read through it. And then that's why I'm asking the questions.
And I appreciate that. And I think this one it really is a combination of event and infrastructure. Places with the Past was an event that went on for 30 years. And this year, because of COVID, is not. So it's still an event, but the ability to make it larger, bigger, and have it be a continuing project that utilizes some infrastructure of signage and have those signs available so every summer they can be placed out is a real opportunity for us.
Okay. And look, Frank, I mean, I try to almost every meeting lay out. I know how people have different. So even I think at the beginning of the year or even last year, we pointed out rules and regulations for lodgers tax and what things are intended for. And we try to repeat that every time. We'll try to repeat it every time, so it's not a moving target. I think we've made it clear several times as far as event funding on how lodgers tax works, and we promote the marketing of events instead of the creation. But if there's any other questions, just on it I think you're hitting on. I think we're talking about the same thing. I've been providing the structure so everybody understands what they need to do, and so we went from not having these applications at all when we had them in the past to finally getting them back. I still think the Lodgers Tax Board needs to work harder on scoring. The problem is that the Lodgers Tax Board hasn't doesn't meet enough to score it before as a group, and I don't know if that's even possible if we get there. So we have our own scores when we come into the meeting today, but all those questions in that application is pretty thorough, and it kind of gets to the gist of what you need to answer. Of what we're looking for. I mean, that packet is the way it's scored, and the points is the basis of what Lodgers Tax wants. That's why it's there. So I don't want anyone to feel that we're thinking any other. I've been trying to establish the same range and of structure throughout. Now with COVID and everything else, we've had issues. So we still want to be flexible, and we still want to consider things outside of the infrastructure. This stuff is only here. The forms are only here so we can function properly. It's not meant to be an overly, stifling thing for events. So
No,
we need to have some structure.
Yeah, I love the form and the format. It helps on our end to organize it, the programs, and get them clarified in the description section where we break down the information. Those are incredibly helpful. I think the only thing I'm trying to figure out, just from an efficiency standpoint, and particularly from the Lodgers Tax Board perspective, how could we make this more efficient so you'd be able to spend your time very productive and efficient in these meetings, and we wouldn't have to kind of stumble around as much. That's more communication than it is the format. I think the formats is excellent. It's just makes it easy for us.
Okay, I think specifically, I think what you were pointing out is as far as infrastructure and the directive around that, and I do think that there needs to be more information on how that is used. Again, we were thinking traditional infrastructure, but if it's going to spread beyond that to things that are permanent, then that's something the Lodgers Tax Board needs to consider. So that's just what I'm pointing out. And again, for this event specifically, like I said, instead of ad placements, we have development costs. So again, I'm just putting that out to the board. We've mentioned in the past that this is how Lodgers Tax works and how we can contribute. So I can leave that to the rest of the board members. And is there any other discussion on this portion? Because I know you have other events, right?
You need to reframe the solar card towards infrastructure.
So yeah, I agree with you, Crew Tech. As long as the money is being used for advertisement, letting everyone know what's going on, rather than funding the actual event itself.
Right. So, so right now the current request as is, and what they've put in the packet. I'm hearing you, Frank. I mean, there is. I mean, as a board, I'm pointing this out to everyone. It would be good if somebody at the city can review the packets, and if they see a glaring problem, that they can approach you right away so you can resubmit the packet. So I'll request, Bill, if we can have that done according to what we know about Lodgers Tax rules, just to at least review the packet. If there's a glaring problem, or hey, we can readjust something, they can resubmit it before it gets to Lodgers Tax. Another suggestion would be we have a marketing committee, and that marketing committee can be provided with these same things, and they can score the events as well. My hope is that they're in full understanding. We could provide them with the booklet that Alan had provided so many months ago on lodgers tax duties. And so then using that framework, they can score these events and take some more time looking at it, but they can score it, and we have the scores of a group of people, and they could present it to lodgers tax along with our scores. So that's an avenue of if and when this
The confusion.
the board goes up, this is something that they could take on as well to help us with these events, applications and infrastructure applications. But as is, it's what the packet is. So if there's any other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to fund this action item.
All right, do I have a second?
Yes.
All right, roll call.
Gabriel Garcia,
Yes.
and Shawna Sandoval.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess don't go far. The next up is request of approval, Las Vegas CCHP for solar challenge event for 5,000.
Again, board, this is a combination of both infrastructure and event. The Solar Car Challenge is an event that's happening this year. The date of that is August 6th through the 7th. So it's the weekend before the New Mexico cruise. And this is when solar cars that have been built by universities, I think there are 12 that are coming through Las Vegas. They attract a number of people, a couple hundred at least, plus people who are interested to see these solar cars. And the thought was to have it be a CCHP city event, and that we would develop banners. And Frank's going to show, put it on screen. There would be 6 banners, big ones, that would be hung around Bridge Street that would focus on transportation, whether it's the wagons that were used on the Santa Fe Trail, whether it's the streetcars later, whether it's just even donkey carts, but they'd be done to promote Las Vegas, and they would be used year after year in the summer. And the immediate event, the Solar Car Challenge, we would promote that these modes of transportation are going to be visible on the plaza. Did that show up, the picture of the streetcar?
No.
No. Okay, he's going to try it again. But these would be 12-foot banners that would be hung around the town, and they would be worthy of press releases. We have a professional travel writer who's agreed to donate her time to help write the articles. They'd be placed in national magazines talking about the Santa Fe Trail. And yes, this year is the bicentennial, but it could be something that attracts visitors every year to see where the wagons. We're unusual in that Las Vegas is on both where the South Fork and the North Fork, or the mountain and the plains part of the Santa Fe Trail, came together. So we also are the place where there was the signed agreement between America and the Mexican government to allow, that's Kearney's Gap, that's out by the correctional facility. There's a plaque there that said, this is where it all began. So we have a lot to promote, and it can be promoted year after year. So it's to try and tie in an event, the Solar Car Challenge, featuring transportation with our place on the Santa Fe Trail.
All right, Any discussion?
Are they showing up?
Mhm.
Are you able to see some of the banners, idea banners that he's showing?
Yeah. And
Okay,
so these banners are going to be something that we can use year after year.
correct.
Okay.
They're,
So
they're projected, they'd be vinyl printed between 6x10 and 8x12 that would be attached to buildings strategically located to where
The solar car challenge.
the path of the solar car challenge. So you'd anticipate a couple on Railroad Street, hopefully one on the Parachute Factory, the site of a couple of other buildings on Bridge. The exact locations are to be determined, but each one of these images represents a different era of transportation, and the images are coming from the CCHP image library. So we have images of ox cart to wagon to the railroad, early
Wow.
pictures of the engine, to the streetcar, to that picture of the first Cadillac coming into Las Vegas in 1921 or something. All of them just trying to help put into place here. We're witnessing the cutting edge of transportation in the future, and Las Vegas as a place reflecting actual photographs of Las Vegas throughout history of every stage of transportation. Just kind of a subtle connection.
okay. And again, for this one, you're going to have a registration table and so on.
Yes, with the solar car challenge, they're coming through here. They go down to Santa Fe, and then they come back. We're actually the final finish point, if you will. And by having, again, pamphlets available, signups, we can direct them to tours, have them spend the night, and take advantage of the history that's around Las Vegas.
And so how is this event being promoted? I know in the prior one you'd also mentioned that you were going to place some ads, but on this packet, do you have a request to help with
The advertising.
advertising?
Right. As I mentioned, we have a travel writer who has a lot of experience with press releases, getting stories in different national travel magazines. We'll also use some of the magazines and some newspapers that we used with Places with a Past.
Okay. Yeah, so that's my only concern here, is I don't see any requests for any so on this one I see advertise and promote press releases and social media. So
Right.
is the cost of placing it, or that's being paid to create those?
No, it wouldn't be creating it. It would be, it'd be creating the ads, but it would be placing them as well.
Right. All right. Is there any other discussion on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to fund this action item.
I second that.
All right, roll call.
Shona Sandoval,
Yes.
and Gabriel Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, and we have one more event. Actually, two more. No, one big one. So it's next is request of approval, Las Vegas CCHP Santa Fe channel on mobile app.
I just noticed that while I have a lodger's tax event form, but apparently I printed all of these on infrastructure. So
Yeah.
that I'll pay attention to that the next time. Although, as we talk, this ends up again being potentially both. There are 34 specific sites in New Mexico associated with the Santa Fe Trail, ranging from the entrance coming in the northeast by near Clayton, through to Fort Union, to Mora, here, and ultimately in Santa Fe. The Bicentennial has provided an opportunity to kind of really highlight the Santa Fe Trail as a destination for tourists and visitors. There's also an enormous amount of content associated with many of the sites, and particularly, as Jan mentioned, the site at Kearney's Gap here locally and at Fort Union, as well as some former sites, architectural sites here in Las Vegas, and some current sites that we hope to feature specifically as points of reference for visitors of the Santa Fe Trail. We'll be featuring, adding a channel on the mobile app specifically for the Santa Fe Trail. The channel will include a tour spot with its GPS location, just as we've done with the architectural sites here in town. This one will incorporate not only Santa Fe sites, but it'll incorporate regional sites in New Mexico that are all associated with the Santa Fe Trail. The fact that it's a bicentennial gives us a little bit extra opportunity for promotion, in that the Santa Fe Trail Association, which is a national organization, is doing a very widespread marketing and promotional program to encourage visitors and tourists along the Santa Fe Trail. There are events taking place in every state throughout the summer. And one of the major events culminates here in Las Vegas in November that CCHP has sponsored, that'll attract at least a couple of hundred people based on history of past events that they've held for the Santa Fe Trail. So the idea was to have a mobile app that, again, is measurable, and use that app to provide organizations like the Santa Fe Trail Association, the Bicentennial Commission, provide them a unique resource that they can promote in their publications and magazines and both social media. Just an update, I've got some of that data in the proposal, but the app currently 42% of the usage of the Connect Las Vegas app, which is an infrastructure app that Lodgers Tax contributed to last year, 42% of that activity is coming from out of state. The largest state outside of New Mexico is California, followed by Texas, Colorado, Arizona, Florida, Nevada. Its reach goes across the U.S. And of interest too is the cities where people are have used the application. Los Angeles is number 3. Albuquerque is actually more usage than Las Vegas. Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, Phoenix, Orlando. Again, where the actual users of the application are showing up all over the country. And so far, there's been 2,800 people have viewed the main screen, and then I think over 12,000 have viewed other pages, or there's over 12,000 other pages that have been viewed. So, and 98% of the people that are using it are unique users, first-time users. So we're getting good coverage on it. Adding a channel specifically for the Santa Fe Trail opens its value up to a very targeted market of Santa Fe Trail tourists. But at the same time, if they open it up because of their interest from Santa Fe for the trail, they're going to be exposed to 200 other locations in Las Vegas that are worthy of visiting beyond the Santa Fe Trail. So it's just one more component to add to the content that we've already invested in. We have a professional working with us on another project who is has her master's in preservation, and she's her master's is from Columbia University in New York. She's from Albuquerque originally. She's going to be spending the month here from June to July, in part on another project that we're involved in. But she will also be involved in assisting in the development of content and resources that would be added to the application. And that's what the request is for, the 3,500. Any questions?
Sorry, I was muted. I was talking to myself.
I do it all the time.
Right. So, Frank, so did you mean for this application, so is this infrastructure or did you mean to put it in infrastructure, or you're still thinking of this as an event?
No, it actually should be an infrastructure, just as the original app was in infrastructure, because the content's not going to be exclusive to the bicentennial. It's content that is relevant for any visitor coming into our region. The fact that the bicentennial is taking place kind of gives us an opportunity to really leverage content that would appeal to that audience, but at the same time, it exposes those visitors to a lot more very specific to Las Vegas. So I think it fits well within the application infrastructure we've already built, and just adding more value to that same investment.
So the original app, this will continue to stay on the original app, and people can refer back to to this edition.
It's on there. It's on there forever, as long as we keep the app going, which we have every intention to. For example, there's also an effort to try to expand on the WPA works here, but particularly as soon as the Film Commission is able to help refine a site-specific movie database, we'll be adding and expanding dramatically the movie site tour, which has been in the current application, movies are number 1, 2, 3, 4, are number 7. The 7th most popular feature that people are going to on the app is the movies. And right now we've got older data on there, and so it's just, I think the goal with the app to begin with was to continue to keep expanding it to entice visitors and locals, but particularly visitors, to learn more and more and more about the city.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add something to this. I think I don't think we should force the people who are making applications to have their whatever they're suggesting for funding to fall in one area or another. I question, some of the conversation about whether it's infrastructure or not, and I'd like to myself to get a little bit more information. I agree. I'm leaning towards the app being infrastructure, but maybe the data could be considered promotional to attract people to come to Las Vegas. So
Right.
I'm going to try to get a reading on that just because. And
Bill, that's it came in under the infrastructure packet.
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm just struggling with it. And then if it's not infrastructure, it's an event. And so the only things I'm struggling with is on these events that we approved. I mean, I'm worried about it being a slippery slope here, because though for what those two events, those didn't include any ad placement, any ad buys. Okay, so what was being approved there is not typically what lodger's tax has done. And so, yeah, we need some answers for that. I think, I popped that up for those two applications. I think we've made it clear for whenever we've gone through these packets in the past that, hey, if it's event funding, then we're funding for these specific things, not to actually create the event.
When you say event, when you say event funding, you really mean advertising, not
right
event.
Advertising and promotion of the event, Mark. And so that's where we've done it for some time now, and we've pointed it out every time we have these type of requests that this is what lodger's tax does. Now for infrastructure, we said, look, this is what we can help out for here, because it's, again, it started out with museums. It started out with the fire station. It started out with things with permitted infrastructure with the park that we can help, because we know year after year, a reader board. I mean, that's considered our infrastructure. So year after year, that's a promotional infrastructure that we have. That was the intention for that. If we start sliding some of these other things in there, well, I mean, you're going to have several people put in the application just like this. So I think, we need to be careful on how it's recommended. It's for the way it's put, it's not the intentions of the lodger's tax board to put it. So if we need to bring back and go over lodger's tax, the way things should be done again, we could review that booklet and guidelines for how we're supposed to be accountable. So that's my concerns, and that's why I put those things out. And it's not to be binding. Everything has rules. When we joined this board and we all became lodger's tax member, it was our duty to read the rules that we're under for lodger's tax, that we're accountable for these monies. So it's not always in our hey, we just want to do this. We want to fall under some type of guidelines and make sure we're making the right recommendations. So I the app portion is, out of the 3 applications they had, was your strongest position. That made sense as far as standing on infrastructure. The other 2 is pretty iffy on it, because I didn't see things in there that a normal event would have as far as actual ad buys.
I have do you guys have like QR code stickers placed in various positions around town that if a tourist walks up and sees that and it says, what this app is, they can take a picture of the QR code and instantly upload that app into their phone? I mean, that's ad right there.
Yeah, and the QR code, I didn't pull up the data, but on the QR code data, we capture the exact location of where that code was shot, in addition to the data that the app itself is picking up where it was downloaded.
Are those QR codes around town?
They're at Crutex hotels. They're at the Plaza. They're at the Castaneda. They're at the stores downtown. We still have a lot more to go. The city has them in the visitor center. They're all.
We'll have to call you back so what we haven't had is the actual presentation of the results. So I know we signed off on it last year, but I don't think we've had like a full presentation of the results of what happened. I know you mentioned a few numbers here. What I'd like to do is bring you back and give us a full presentation on what resulted from the original app. And it becomes easier for everyone to see what we're adding to as well.
In the in this proposal, I did lay out the past 3 months, all of the relevant data. That's I've got a lot even more detail, but I love doing proposal or presentations, so anytime. But it is I did include it here in this report.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like a point of order just before you ask for a motion on this one. I just want to make it clear that, and this just goes back to an earlier motion and failure for a second. Of course, that can happen. However, everybody should know that seconding a motion doesn't mean you're in favor of the motion, because you do get a chance to vote. And so, we're working with other committees to try to make this clear to folks to make the vote. But anyway, I just want to make that point of order.
Good point. I didn't.
All right. So with that said, I will if there's not any other discussion, I will entertain a motion. All right. Do we have a second? Shauna, we had a motion to approve from Gabriel and
Okay. Yes, second. Sorry.
All right. Roll call.
Shona Sandoval,
Yes.
and Gabriel Garcia.
Okay.
Gabriel just left the meeting.
I don't know if his phone died.
All right. So what's the procedure of somebody falling off right and run roll call? Because we don't have a quorum at this point.
somebody text him or call him?
Hold on, mute. Raw cookie.
Does anybody have contact information for Gabriel?
I'll try to call him on Messenger. Hold on.
Montana, can you get a hold of Gabe?
He just said it's not letting him join right now.
There he is.
Here he is.
Okay.
All right. If everyone is back, we can proceed with the roll call.
He's muted.
Sorry, I was on the phone with the deputy clerk just to make sure what procedure was. So we could keep the motion and the second and then just redo roll call. So the redoing roll call, Shauna Sandoval,
Yes.
Gabriel Garcia.
He's gone again.
There's something going on with the internet. I'm losing internet in the restaurant. Just so if anything, you guys lose me.
Tell her it's the Red Dawn or Dark Knight. That's the group.
All right. So I guess I need to know what the procedure is if we've lost a quorum. Do I need to adjourn the meeting or move on because the rest of the items are items that we need a quorum for, I believe.
Yes, we need a quorum. We need to, Montana, can you try to get a hold of Gabe again?
Yeah.
Maybe you could just
Maybe
get
you
on.
can just phone in,
by
yeah.
phone. Yeah.
Here he comes. He said his internet's back on now.
We'll be going back, I guess they'll be talking tomorrow night at the meeting, council meeting to go
So
back.
Gabe is on the line and he said that he is trying to get in right now.
So we'll be back to in-face meetings after tomorrow night, most likely.
So tomorrow's still virtual?
That's my, yes, yes.
And do we need to be participating in the council meeting when these are brought before the council?
You should be. Yes, you should be there just in case they have questions. And while we're waiting for Gabe, Krewtek, I guess I'm going to need you there for the two approved 5,000 lodger's tax projects that were approved at the last meeting. They're on the agenda.
All right.
Sorry
So,
about that, guys. My internet's been kind of iffy all day.
okay.
Let's speak.
All right. We'll try one more time. Back to the roll call.
Okay, so Shawna Sandoval,
We lost her.
Yes, yes.
and Gabriel Garcia.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, request for approval of Las Vegas First Visitors Guide and the folding rack card. 38530.
It's Melissa's.
Is Melissa still on? This is your time to.
Here. Hello.
I hear you.
Okay, I'm here. I've been here the whole time. Okay, so I kind of adjusted the packet as far as visitor's guide funding, just because, well, we obviously want to do that more towards the fall. Because the events that are happening and not happening this year, hopefully all will happen next year. And we want, if we do the guide this fall, we want it to be a 21-22 type of guide so that it covers what's left of this year by the time we go to press in September, and covers all of next year. I did notice that I'd made a mistake in the total ask when you get over to page, outside of the two cover sheets, when you get over to page 2 in part 3, event detail, the number that I'm asking for the rat card, that should be 10,530. I didn't mean to roll over the 2,000 for delivery of the guide not the rat card, into that number. So the numbers for the guide are 19.5, which is 75% payment. Once the city approves its pages, and then upon delivery from the printer, another 6,500. Which totals to 26,000, and then 2,000 for delivery around the state of New Mexico. That includes delivery and some towns that we mail to that don't take as many guides. And then as far as the rat card goes, which is on the cover sheet at the bottom, the numbers, 4,000 for production and $5,510 for printing of 40,000 guides, which is a lot of guides, but I feel are going to pick up a lot more of those rat cards because they're smaller. And I would almost predict running out of them within a year's time. And then $1,020 for the monthly distribution. So that's $1,020 for the year for the rat card to be distributed by distribution brochures. And I ran some of the folding rat cards up to the city. I'm hoping that everyone got one in their packet. I got those after I initially delivered the packet. Does everyone have one?
They missed the delivery.
Okay. Well, I do have one here, just in case everyone has kind of forgotten what we're talking about. It's basically 16 pages, if you will. And it let me get back to where I was. It folds. I can show you this way. This is the packet, the rack card, and then naturally, this is the one from the kitchen that got wet. Okay, and then it opens to 4, and then there's the back, and then it opens this way. So there's a lot of room for a lot of information. Maps, information about recreation, about history, about the city museum, CCHP, all the things, the hot springs, all the things that people come here for and what they want to do. And, kind of a small listing of annual events. And again, as I mentioned, this would lead one to the visitor's guide with a QR code. So it would be within the guide, it would be use that QR code for more detailed information about any of the events. Obviously, we mentioned film and something like this, our film history. Do you think of anything else? But I don't think we're going to go for advertising because we don't have enough room to advertise everyone. And so that's not going to be our goal. It's going to be more of an informative rack card, like what Frank and Jan are doing with the Santa Fe Trail. That information would be listed in here. All of our great history that we have, starting from the land grants on up to the future. So we just want it to be kind of as inclusive as it can be. And then with reference to the guide, if people want to get more detailed information. And as I spoke the last meeting, that the guide would be online as well. Or maybe it's only online. It just depends on what we get approval for. So that's, I think, about it right now. I probably missed some things, but any questions?
Okay, so what we have in front of us is all print. I know in what you sent, you had mentioned a digital portion, but I guess you just answered it there. So
the guide would definitely be digital, not the rack card, but CRECHEC, the guide would definitely be online. And then again, what we're asking for the printing, it's just going to be, that's going to be earned for us in advertising dollars. What we go out and what advertisers we get would help cover the cost of printing. And we're thinking of printing 20,000 and probably not many more than that, just because we want to supplement, especially this year, what we're missing in that amount with the rack card.
Okay. And what's the cost of the rack cards broken out?
Well, for production, for those 16 pages would be $4,000, and to print 40,000 of those is $5,500, $5,510. And then for distributions brochures, they will distribute in Santa Fe and around the state of New Mexico for a total of $1,020 per year. So that total is, I don't have my calculator in front of me. It's $10,530. Yeah, for 180 locations for that RAC card to be distributed throughout the year. So 10,530.
Or
Even though it says on under item number 3 in your packet, I've got 12,530. That was a mistake on my part. That included $2,000 to deliver the visitor's guide, not the RAC card. So the number that we're looking for the RAC card is 10,530.
Can I ask a couple questions? I'm just kind of curious. For the RAC card, would that be coming out before the visitor's guide is completed?
Yeah, I'd like to have it printed. It's probably going to be in June now. In the packet here, I've got stated late May to early June, but it's with the way things are going, I'm sure it's going to be June, yes, versus September printing of the visitor's guide, or just its online presence wouldn't be until September.
Okay. And I'm guessing for the online portion, that's included with the development of this print, of the print portion?
Yes.
Okay. We really need to make the connection, because I think what we were trying for on the RAC cards too is that it point them to either our website or the visitor's guide if there's gonna be one. So you'd have these RAC cards by June, and you could possibly have information to visit the visitor's guide on there somehow.
Well, yeah, it's going to have to be stated that it wouldn't be available to see. You could see previous ones online,
Yeah.
Because, I've made those to where they can be seen online. So that, and then, a statement about the 21-22 guide would be coming out in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Virginia still here?
No, but I was thinking the same thing. I just looked, I couldn't find a visitor's guide, at least the digital version. So Melissa, we could put maybe a couple of the visitors guides, or at least the last one, on there until the new one's developed, and then we can swap them out, but we can put the link in there to it maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned in the last Logitech meeting, there could be a link to prior guides or prior editorial pieces, because, half the people that pick it up, they love to read about the history. And so we've got years and years of editorials where there could be links online to read more editorial pieces, if not a prior year's guide.
Virginia just popped back on. Virginia, we were talking about the RAC card and putting links on there to maybe an area on Visit Las Vegas, New Mexico, that we can set down some previous visitors guides. And so when the new one is printed, it'll show up there as well. And then so the link on the RAC card would take you to the page to see the digital version of the visitors guides.
Of course, it's just like how we do our monthly newsletter.
Yes, exactly.
So that my other question is, going into Slate, I mean, so what's in front of us is the visitor's guide itself at 20,000 on print. So my question is, this late in the game, though, a good portion that's listed is, I guess, what the Lodgers Tax is paying for on behalf of the city. The pages that you see there, Virginia, are we on the same page as what we've done before?
I have no idea. I don't have any information. I haven't received any. I don't even know what's in the request. I haven't gotten rate cards. I haven't seen anything, so I'm not sure.
Right. So in the past, if this is in the fall instead, was a good portion in the past, really good portion of the pages really about the summer in all those pages, or how useful would the same amount of pages be if we're having a visitor's guide into the fall?
I would think we would need less because most of those were event pages and we don't have as many events this year.
Right. And
Well-
so Melissa, I mean, the on the last run, I was hoping that, maybe when you come back to present that you could come up with, this year may not be a regular year, that you come up with maybe a condensed version that we can consider, considering that we're happening later in the year and less events and so on. But it looks like it's the same presentation with addition of the
Well,
And the digital versions aren't hard to do. I mean, we do a monthly newsletter digitally and we send that out. We post it on the website. I mean, and it's usually about a good 8 to 20 some pages. So it's not hard to create those and put them out digitally.
Okay. Do you know if the board, marketing board has had any discussions on this part in game planning for a visitor's guide this year going forward?
They are putting everything together so they could come up with a plan on how to approach everything in the upcoming year.
Okay. In the meantime, since that's the fall, I mean, with, I guess, a link to at least even visit Las Vegas, that we could do the rack cards in between, would that be a good opportunity until we arrive at what we're fully doing with a visitor's guide?
is that question to me or Virginia?
Both.
Well, that's kind of what everyone has been thinking, because we always go out and sell the visitor's guide as far as advertising goes from February until we print in April. And obviously with COVID, we felt that was, and things not being open, that was a great unknown. We wouldn't want to do that or ask anyone to even consider that, as everybody's trying to get out of their hole. And but that, and then in years past, I know Alan's not here today, we thought too that producing the visitor's guide in the fall is going to be a better time for our advertisers locally to jump in, because they've gone through a season. They are going to have more advertising dollars to spend than they would when you come at them in January and February, and it's tax season. Believe me, we know, we've been doing this, for 13 years. So kind of stuck to, let's do it in the fall, but include next year's guide. Next year's events. And then if we do another guide next year, it's produced in the fall. And you may not have a date of an event, but you could certainly have links on that ad that takes you to, Visit Las Vegas, NM, or the city, or or the group that's putting on the event. But we thought, this way it's just easier because most of these advertising dollars, 95% of them are from locals. And we know what it's like when, you try to hit somebody up in February. People are just, they're hesitant, and, it's hard.
I understand that, but you guys are going digitally, so should be able to offer discount prices so that it could help you offset some of your costs. That's what I'm curious about.
Well, that's definitely a thought, but if we do print, we're also gonna need dollars to print, so.
Right. I mean, that's been I've tried to say it the last about 3 times on the move to digital that because print is expensive this year, especially, put an exclamation point on that. But,
Yeah. It is, yeah.
At this point, all, your presentation, Melissa, is mainly focusing on print still, and we've heard very little about the digital portion of it. It just may be not the year for traditional printing. It's something we can consider when things are normal. It looks like we're going to miss a good portion of the summer, and for the hotels, I mean, during that time, this summer going forward is when most of our guides flew out. I don't know. I don't think we would be. I don't think that's doing a guide just to do it would be the right way to go. And when we don't have a good portion of these events and so on in place, and we miss the summer, I think the RAC card was opportunity to do a portion of that, a condensed version of what the visitor's guide could be, and point to digital places that are much cheaper to achieve. And that's been our goal or our directive for the board. I know many have mentioned it. That doesn't mean that in the future we can move to printing some more again. Yes, everybody is pushing digital, and some people still want print. We're still going to be fighting that dynamic, but this year especially, we're kind of looking at it. Hey, what can we do for this year that would be the most efficient? And I don't know if doing a full guide again right now is the most efficient.
Right, and I've heard you, Crew Tech and the board several times say that I believe this year you didn't want print. Everybody made that understanding, and that you guys prefer all digital this year, which I could understand because we're barely looking at opening in June, hopefully, and we don't know what's going to roll out within the next year. Once we open, if we're going to have to close again and postpone events next year if something happens or what. So I kind of get where you guys are coming from as far as digital versus print.
Right. So we've made those requests in the past that we moved to digital, especially this year. But we haven't seen any details on that. So we can request that again and say, hey, if there can be another way to do this, especially for this year, and say that it's digital and we're not having to print out all these guides for this year, then that's something the board can consider. But what's being presented and what's on the agenda today is for a full print visitor's guide. I think at half the prior year, so we're at 20,000, I believe, Melissa.
Yeah. And I totally understand that. That's not, we knew that this could definitely be a possibility, and it's totally understandable because every week everything's changing, and so we know that it's not a for sure thing that we're going to be completely open, but we're willing to do it so that it rolls into next year and covers next year. If that's not what the board wants, then that's fine. I mean, I get it. So,
Yeah, I mean,
we've enjoyed doing it for all these years.
Sorry.
It's just something that we're really proud of, and people, we can't keep them in front of our shop, and we just have our own little table there. And it's just not if it's not the year, I get it. I mean, it's not a surprise, guys. It's just we thought if we did one at all, it would just cover all of next year. So maybe we talk about that again at another time.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Gabriel, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, how is the board feeling about those folding pamphlets? Was that supposed to be sort of like a compromise for not making so
What?
many traveler's guides?
Right. So that's what we talked about in the prior meeting, and we were mentioning that Melissa come back with the full plan for those rack cards, because that's what we were kind of interested in lieu of a full-on visitor's guide because of the things that are happening. So I think there was some interest there. It got combined into one on our agenda item, so we can have that be separated out and put on. Bill, on because this is on a request. If we wanted to do just direct cards, am I going to need to have this on the agenda, or we can pry it out?
No, it's on the agenda already. So if you want to just break out the rack cards,
I really feel that what we lost and what we can put on the traveler's guide can be condensed onto those things. I feel like that's a good compromise. I do like those. I like how they fold out. You got maps, you got, points of interest, maybe some history stuff, and whatever is sort of left in terms of events, I think could possibly fit on those. So I like those things. That's my input.
Okay.
Yeah, and just if you look at the packet, you could certainly separate them. I just don't know if that's something that you can or can't do, but the figures there, like I said, I've got the number 2,000 at 12,530. It should be 10,530 to print 40,000 for production of the 40,000 of the rack card and for the annual delivery. So $10,530 would be the ask if you need it broken down. Or I don't know if I have to come again before, or I hope not.
So if you look, as long as we're good with that, Bill, that we don't need to have it on the agenda and we could do it by motion, I'll entertain that. So we're clear on that? Because right now under the agenda, it's approval of everything.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with just talking about the rack cards right now. And if we want to put off the visitor's guide, there should be no reason why we can't.
Okay. Do we need to table that's what's on the floor. Not a motion, but that's what we're considering right now. So do we need to table it first and then do a motion, or in the same motion we could say we're tabling the whole thing, but we're motioning to approve just the rack card portion of it?
So I guess my question would be, how do you want it brought back? So is this something you want Melissa to bring back, or is this something that the board at maybe the next meeting will call for that, to put it on the agenda?
We can, but then that's what I wanted to do, but then now we have time constraints, right? So if we're waiting towards that meeting, how do we get these rack cards out in time to connect?
Oh, no, you can go ahead and approve the rack cards. I was just talking about the visitor's guide itself.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're going to have a tough time with the entire package right now. I can entertain a motion for the entire package first, since it's there. But I'm considering if
well, somebody could make a motion to approve only the rack cards, the 10,534 or something like that, whatever that number is.
Okay.
You could do it that way and table the visitor's guide to the next meeting.
Let's do that.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion in those words.
Let's talk about it right now.
Motion to approve the rack card. Motion to table the visitor's guide.
I second that motion.
All right. I'm assuming that's one motion. We'll combine that as one motion.
And I second the motion to table the traveler's guide.
I'd be declared that you table it to the next meeting, or else it stays nebulous without a date.
I second to table it to the next meeting.
All right. So we'll do roll call. I'm assuming we're going to call that one motion, or are we doing a roll call for two different motions?
I think it's one motion.
Maybe wait, we'll just go one more.
Yes, it's one motion.
Okay. Roll call.
Gabriel Garcia,
Yes.
Shawna Sandoval,
Yes.
motion passes to approve rec card for 10,530, and motion to table the visitor guide till the, I believe, July meeting.
Okay. It looks like we didn't have a new or other business section. So
Can I ask one question? Do I attend the city council meeting tomorrow?
It won't be on that agenda. It'll have to be on the June meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get in the at least the rack cards right now because of the next
So the
meeting.
June meeting is the 9th.
Bill, are you talking about lodger's tax or city council?
City council.
Okay, June 9th. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
So I guess meeting adjourned. We need a roll call for meeting adjourned.
Go for it.
All right.
Montana?
Shawna, yes, sir, yes, no, meeting adjourned.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Gabriel.
Yes.
All right, yes, meeting adjourned. See you next time, Leroy.
Take care, everybody.